No, that's me. That's me this morning. And that's my ashtray. Good morning, everybody. Trying not to put my face in there. Wasn't easy. Everybody woke up. I'm trying to get there. Good morning, Navy Beans. Morning, Jackie. Morning, Tammy. Morning, Wealth Lover. Hello, hello. Just Love. Good morning. Good morning, Twister. Is that Tennessee Twister or just Twister? Oh, Gigi's get woke up this morning, guys. Give it a few minutes. I was running late myself. My Mountain Dew ain't kicking in this morning. It's the first chilly day we've had over here. Hey, I sent you an email a while back about the water down there. I don't know if you remember. We used to do some water searches around there. Oh, what it do, Bama girl? Trying to get woke up this morning. Come on in, everybody. Let's get some coffee and Mountain Dew. I'm drinking Mountain Dew. 36 degrees. Good gracious, Wolf Lover. I don't know. What's the temperature here, David?
I don't know.
Probably about, what, 50, baby?
No, it's probably the 40s.
40s? Wolf Lover said Virginia it's 36. I don't feel like it's that cold here, but it's chilly. It's first chilly morning I know we've had.
Thank you, David.
Alright, David, turn fast and loud down a little bit this morning. Yeah, I can see I ain't woke up yet. Oh, you're in the mountains? I love the mountains. Well, I love the beach and the mountains, both of them.
Okay. We'll go get some num-nums.
Well, is Murph acting like she's got secrets this morning?
Huh?
Murph acting like she's got secrets this morning.
Yep. She thinks she's got a secret.
Murph's got secrets. Hey, boy, what you doing? You having a good day? All right, everybody. I guess what we're going to start talking about this morning is Ben Hill Lane. And because it's such a mess, guys, I think the best way for us to start talking about this would be to discuss why William and Hazel are not responsible for what's going on Ben Hill Lane. And I think if we explain that well, that that will help everybody to understand more of what's going on. So if we take that out of the equation, getting to who is really responsible for what's going on Ben Hill Lane will be easier for everybody to understand. So, Alexa, search YouTube for 110 Ben Hill Lane, Rogersville, Tennessee. Searching YouTube.
Okay.
Y'all give me a second. Alexa, Google 110 Ben Hill Lane, Rogersville, Tennessee.
Oh, that's enough. Yep. Yeah. Now you can have some of these.
Mommy, I don't want none, baby. It's so dummy. I know, but I don't want none. Gigi's busy. I don't want none of them. 110 Ben Hill Lane.
Okay. You want something to eat? Okay.
Rogerville, Tennessee.
Be careful. Hey, it's
Alright.
all over the day.
I know I need to take an allergy pill myself. Got full.
Here, pick that phone away, man. Here you go, love.
Alright, guys. If we Google Ben Hill Lane, you can come up with a lot of information yourself to find out previous sales records and things that have went on at Ben Hill Lane. But we also all know what the deed information looks like on this. We know about some previous sales that went on. About this one, this was a big one that went on for the 2.28 acres that went on in June around the time Summer went missing. This is the land that went for sale that Jackie Dobbs bought, and this really brought him to the forefront in the investigation because of how shady that he acted afterwards. Now, do I know exactly what went on with him? I do know some of what went on with him. Uh, my thing with him is I think that he's scared. I think that he was frightened after everything went on, and he got a bigger idea of the amount of people that we're talking about and the amount of money that is involved and the power involved, and it just scared him away, and that's what I think happened with him. But anyways, there's some other properties that are close by that are going to come into play also. But if you guys Google it yourself, you'll be able to just pull up some information. But that's one of the ones I want you to look at. And when you pull that one, I also want you to look at previous sales records. You'll be able to see that he tried to sell that not only in June when Summer went missing. You'll see in May he put the house, all 11 acres, up for sale. And then you'll also see in April he sold 2 acres. Then also the sale had to be reversed in April also to another seller, another buyer. So look at those for yourself. It wasn't even Jackie Dobbs then in April, but it was the same problem because the deed was so messed up. But going back on the history of who William and Karen Goad were, William Joseph Goad was born in Hawkins County in 1964. He's also buried in Hawkins County. But he was married once before to a lady named Carolyn Carter. And was he had gotten a divorce from her in Texas, and he married Karen Hazel Everett. And he married Karen Hazel Everett when she was 40 years old in 1986 in Harris County, Texas. And I think that is where everybody seems to want to throw Don into the mix there because he has some background in Texas, well, some arrests in Texas. I've not been able to tie him into her life at all yet, but, we'll keep an open mind there and say maybe somewhere in her past. I've not been able to do that. But when her and William, they did move to the area. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I can tie them to Ben Hill Lane because I cannot. I could tie them to the Church Hill area. Um, when Karen was born, she was actually a twin, and her twin lived exactly 25 days and is buried in Utah also with the rest of her family, except for one father and one other sister who also came to Tennessee. So she had an elderly father, and then she had one sister that came to Tennessee when she got married and came to Tennessee with William. And they all three lived around that area. But her father didn't come until the last 5 years of his life. And what I find fascinating about him is he was very elderly, but he was also really into the genealogy of the LDS Church. At Brigham Young University, he studied the history and the bloodlines of the people of the Mormon Church. So the descendants of the original Mormons. Now there's the beliefs that you guys can go look up for yourself. that they believe in the true bloodlines and the if you could trace your ancestors back to being true Mormons and how they'll accept you into the religion and all that. Anyways, long story short, he was a retired railroad employee and he knew a lot about the bloodlines, the last names, and how to trace people back. His name was Alvin Pete Everts. So, about the last 5 years of his life, we can trace him to the Rogersville area. Not to really a specific address yet, but I do know that he lived in a trailer, and I do know he lived there for about 5 years. He died in 2006, so we're going to say around 2001 he was in the East Tennessee area. Could it have been on Ben Hill? Yes. Could it have been where Don lives? Not in that house. Now, there was a trailer that was once located on that property, and there is still a trailer that's located at 205 in the back of that property back there. On the original homestead, there is still a old farmhouse and a trailer there. Now, if you go and look at that, for some reason, no one's trying to sell that original farmhouse or that trailer back there. And I'm pretty sure that I know why, but we won't go into that yet. We're just going to, for right now, stick to these facts. So there was also a trailer, and I think you guys might remember from the beginning, people talked about a trailer and the 105 address and how it seemed like Google Maps was kind of moving the 105 address from the top of 110 over to 15. That did seem to be happening there for a minute. Now, if you also look at the side of the house where you see Don adding on to the house, you'll see fire damage around the rafters of the top of that home where it had been previously burnt before. Now, that house did not have power or water or plumbing added to that home. But we believe that the trailer was located on the property, and the trailer is probably what did catch fire and burn down to the ground. Now, when the trailer burnt down to the ground, the fire damage from that trailer is also what got onto that house. Now, that deed is what is not being switched. Now, if you pull up the deed for this property that they are signing over to Don, now the reason why that we know that the church would have to be involved in this is because everything that we track down to this deed and all the other deeds in this area that are being done this way, they are all coming back to people in that church. Every one of them has LDS, SDA backgrounds. So when you have that many people with the same commonality, you can't say that's a coincidence. So therefore, this is not a coincidence that they all would be the same religion. Now, if there was a mass deed sweeper out there that just was making a bunch of money on deeds, you would know good and well he wouldn't be the same religion, right? I mean, he wouldn't be doing it all at the same church. He would be doing just a bunch of different properties and selling them off, making a lot of money, right? Well, that's not what's happening. What they're doing is they're building a congregation. They have about 200 people that go to that church right now. And in order to bring more and more people to the area, they will have to take land and they're going to have to bring in couples and they're going to have to somehow let you buy that land from them. So Don doesn't have, they sold this land to him for $35,000. Don didn't have $35,000. You guys know that. So Don will work off that land. He's going to have to pay them for it. So in exchange, they train him to do a trade. They trained him to hang drywall, and they let him work for them because that's what they do. They go into these places and they rebuild the houses, and then they take these scrap deeds, which in that area that lots of farmers lost their deeds to farmlands when we went through all those hard times. You know, lots of these farmers went and took out loans to try to keep their farms, and they went to these little banks that were, you know, privately owned that ended up going under. And They ended up losing their deeds, and then in the end, the banks ended up losing everything because they went under. Only a few banks were saved at the time. They were rescued. So someone's just going in and salvaging the deeds. In the end, will it all be caught? Yeah, eventually. I mean, somebody's going to have to go back and track every bit of this down and clean it up. But when will that happen? Well, I don't know. As long as technically they're getting tax money off of it and stuff, I don't know. They probably won't care. They'll probably go on forever because they are. I mean, as of 2014, I think that's when Don started going in and paying taxes on this property. Prior to that, that Claudia Trent lady was paying it for several years out of Utah for the church. Um, it's a nightmare. It's disgusting, but it's a nightmare. I mean, after this, what we plan on doing here is tracking how many properties is Claudia doing. I mean, how many so far has she done, and how many of those people actually go to that church? And it's easy to find out because usually when you go back and look, like the one thing I was able to find about Karen is in her obituary, she said that she was a Mormon, she was an LDS. And that's one thing we're able to find out is when they pass away, there'll be something about them that'll tell us what religion they was. And every time that they lose a deed or deed goes through their hands that they put their name on, that's the one thing we will find in common every time. So nothing in this world is usually a coincidence, and especially not this many properties. And the timings. If you go back and look at what was Don doing over the years when things were happening at this property, there's no way he can tie to it at all. Um, and things his dad was doing, times he was in jail and stuff. There's no way that he could tie to it at all. But I do want to find out more about Claudia Trent. How many deeds is she doing? Because from what I see, she's doing a lot. The church is moving tons of money. I know that I found $1 million that the pastor himself has bought in two separate houses in 6 months. He spent $1 million personal money in 6 months. And then he says he's doing 1.9 million in church upgrades, fixing to do 1.9 million in church upgrades. So you're telling me that you just spent $1 million and you're fixing to spend 1.9 million on that church in 6 months in Kingsport, Tennessee. Now, tell me anywhere in America that you know that a pastor, I know you guys go to church, most of you probably do, or at least some of you do. Have you guys ever had a building fund? Do you remember taking up for years so your church could pay off y'all's building funds? Does any of this sound anywhere? If you've got a church of 200 people on a good day, 200 people show up to your church and they pay their tithes. Do you know of a church anywhere that's able to spend $2 million on upgrades? And my pastor, has a hard time, like, even surviving because what we pay him isn't nearly what he deserves to make. But my pastor could no way go and buy $1 million worth of property. Two properties, one for 600,000, one for 400,000 in the past 6 months. Personal properties. Now, if my pastor was able to do that, first of all, I'd say, thank you, Lord. But he would deserve to. He's not able to do that. Yeah, well, the pastor in Kingsport surely didn't get $1 million out of his house, and didn't he come a while back? So, anyways, he spent $1 million. He's fixing to spend 2 million, and tell me a church in America that pays their pastor that kind of cash. I'd like to see them. And if they're spending that kind of money, I would hope that they're turning that into the IRS. But one funny thing that I have found is one guy's name that is on Don's deed as someone in his past that's acknowledging he's bought and sold a property, there's no way he has any credit. But used to work for the IRS out of Utah. Imagine that. So, since we're not talking nickels and dimes, we can pretty much say we're talking big power. We're not talking little power. We're talking big power. And since we're not talking county officials, we're talking IRS officials, we can say we're talking about big power. People bigger than me, bigger than you. Um, and I would also go as far as to say, because they're so involved in the school system and the county system, and you not having to have birth certificates and still able to get in the county school system and things you and I could not do, it is bigger than you and I. It is something that I can see no one wants to talk about. No one wants to touch it with a 10-foot pole. It's easy to prove. It's easy to go in here and look at and say, something stinks. No one wants to touch it. As far as they get back to Karen's name, they don't want to touch it no more. Oh, no. If you start messing around with Jeannie and Mary's last name, and you start getting to the Simonson last name, and you start going, what's their real mama's last name? If Patricia Nadine Wells is their stepmom, and that's their real name, well, what was their real name then? Start doing that for a little bit, you guys. Start saying, well, okay, we'll go with Patricia Nadine Wells as the stepmama then. Well, why does it list Mary and Patricia and all them as being their mother then? Shouldn't it list them as being their children? Start asking questions like that, you guys, and see what kind of answers you start getting. You won't get good ones. Start looking around Facebook now and find out, well, where did Mary go now on Facebook? Where did Jeannie Bavaro go on Facebook now? Where'd her pictures go that were on Google when we used to be able to Google her image when she was talking to Chris on the interview room and her picture was out there? Where's that at now, guys? Where's that link now? Y'all tell me. Because maybe I'm the one that's having the problem here. Because I'm willing to listen to anything. I'm willing to go and look and investigate anything if somebody will just tell me where I'm going wrong. What do I have wrong? Because when I say that everything in the world looks like Patricia Nadine Wells has got to be Don Wells' mom, and she's got to be still alive because it shows that she gave birth to Don Wells and she gave birth to his sister over there. They say, no, that's got to be a stepmom. Well, where does it show she ever gave birth to Mary and Jeannie and a granddaughter named Patricia, the Nelsons and the Simonsons and all them? Where's that at? They don't want to talk about that no more. And pictures start disappearing, but bankruptcies start popping up. Does anybody want to go there? Because I guarantee you I will. And I don't care how ugly it gets. I really don't, y'all, at this point. Because I'm talking about a 5-year-old girl. I'm not even talking about whoever else in this world has decided to come out later on and say, oh, poor me. I'm talking about a 5-year-old child here. And the fact that everybody wants to cover it up because their pocketbooks are in danger. I don't care about y'all's wallets. None of them. I don't care if all of them go into jail for fraud. I don't care. Yeah. They deserve it. They're adults. They're grown-ups. Every one of them made the decision to do what they're doing. They're switching names. They're switching credit. And they're filing bankruptcy under every last name they get a hold of. And I'm telling you, it's every last name they get a hold of.
Have a cash app?
And that's on them. That's not on us. That's not on me. And yeah, I feel bad for whatever they went through in life that caused them to do it. But that's on them, not on us.
All right.
But take a look for yourselves, guys, because that's the road we're going down.
Let me send you some money.
And I'm not trying to re-victimize them. I don't want to go down that road and re-victimize them. Please don't look at me that way.
That's all we can do.
But that's the road we're going down. That's the ugly that lays in this path.
I know him. I know.
It's all lies. And in order to break down that wall, would you not agree? To break down the wall, you must first first at least break through this lie? If we can't break through one lie and break through and say, and why is this lie right here, and get somebody to start talking, then we'll never break through it. We'll never start anywhere, right? So let's start here. Let's start with, why is this one big lie right here in front of us stopping everything? Why can't one person be honest with, who are you really? Because Karen is not your mama. She's not your mama, Don. 100% facts, she's not your mother. Now, whether or not Pam's your ex-wife or your mom or your sister mama, I don't know. I don't know. What do I believe? I believe Patricia Nadine Wells is your mother. I believe she's alive. I believe that's your mother. Then I have to go back and say, well, then, who's Mary's mom and who's Trisha's mom and who's Trisha's grandma, and who's Jeannie's mom? You know, I've been down that road.